is a new lecture on French astrology on Monday, May 2nd, 2014. I'm Jacques Halbronn, and I would like to speak about the relationships between astrology and the astrologers and the client. Because all these three elements are very narrowly connected, as you know, probably. I would like also to speak about the belief. What is the basis of the belief in astrology? Do people believe in astrology because it's true, or do they believe in astrology because it looks okay, it seems okay, and it corresponds to a certain idea they have of science? Both are the points which we'll debate tonight in this new lecture on French astrology. When I say French astrology, it's a matter of expression, because it is, I would prefer to say, it is the way French astrological avant-garde looks to astrology. Or if you prefer, what French astrology has to propose to the world. And it's obvious that astrology, if astrology in France is just traditional, they have nothing to propose to the world. It can only be something more original, more new. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So I believe that what I do is really worth communicating to the world. And in a way, and in any case, I am the result and the fruit of French astrology, whatever. And probably I might not have reached the results I have reached if I had developed in another country, in another culture. Well, this is debatable, of course. So, there is a sort of contrast, if I can say, between what astrologers say about astrology and what the clients say about astrology. And it is not exactly the same story in both cases. If you listen to astrologers, they will tell you, well, it works. If you listen to clients, they say, oh, this is astrology, is connected with the stars, with the planets, from somewhere outside mankind, and that's what I want to believe. I hope there is something outside, from another world, in a certain way. And when I say another world, I'm of course referring also to what the people who believe in Spiritism believe, that it comes from another world. The fact that you believe in something coming from somewhere else is very significant, very typical of a certain difficulty to live in this world with those people that are around us, especially our parents, etc. So, there are people who prefer a message coming from outside the world, from another field, like beyond death or beyond the earth, something beyond, anyway, than to listen to people who are around them, who are near them. Yeah, there is also, for instance, the fact that people prefer to listen to English music, English songs, and to French songs in France is also something very specific. A difficulty to accept what is near and a fascination for what is far away. So many people are working in this dynamic of what is far away, what is not from the present, what is not here and now. It's a specific syndrome. So you have those two approaches which coincide, which are confronted. And there is a sort of game which consists in playing both things at the same time. When it doesn't work, it doesn't matter because it's something transcendental. And when the transcendental is a problem, then it works. They play on two different levels. So I will start with the basis of the astrological belief, especially the belief of the students. What do they receive when they start studying astrology or when they start reading books on astrology? They receive knowledge which has several elements, several structures, several chapters, and all this is presented so that it looks more or less coherent, harmonic, structured. But what happens when someone will prove that this structure is not solid, this structure doesn't work? When I say doesn't work, doesn't mean it doesn't work in the meaning of it is not balanced. It is full of elements which do not go together. It's full of things which are lacking, which are not proper. I will not make a list of all this. I already mentioned all those problems in previous lectures. But the fact is that what we call the historical tradition presents a lot of aspects which are not satisfactory from the point of view of any intellectual demand. In many ways, astrologers try to present astrology as a language, because a language, you're not critical about a language, by the way. Your language is something that you learn and you practice. You practice a language. You practice astrology. The difference is that when you learn a language, you can practice this language with people who do also practice this language. If you learn French, you will be able to speak with French speakers, etc. But what about learning astrology? Who are the people who speak astrology? Well, in a way, we could say that there are some groups, some small groups of people who meet from time to time and will speak together a sort of astrological language. We have that in France from time to time. There is no critical approach here. You just use this language, and I would even say you translate. And a language is something you can translate. They translate the French language into astrology, or they translate astrology into French language. So there is a process of translation which is also something in common with languages. But languages, more than anything else, languages are not to be critical, not to be attacked. You just learn the language, you speak the language, you use the language, but you're not going to say, oh, grammatically speaking, this doesn't work, it's not coherent, why? I mean, you are not going to discuss if language is corrupted or has lost certain aspects of what it had in the past, etc. Language is something you just respect as such, and you learn as such. And when you learn a language, it's because probably you have certain fascination for the culture connected with this language, for the literature connected with this language. There are some reasons that nourish your interest for this language, for your decision to learn this language, to practice it. But still, well, the comparison has its limits, I suppose. Yeah. On the other side, you have astrologers who say, well, I know that astrology has many flows. Astrology has several factors which do not fit together properly. We don't know exactly certain things about astrology, etc. But it works. And that expression is supposed to be a conclusive argument. Since it works, that means that you cannot say anything against it. You cannot discuss, criticize such and such aspect of astrology because it works. It globally works. Like you would say, this car works, this machine works, astrology works. The use of the word works concerning astrology is in itself very interesting because it seems a little improper. Well, for instance, you could say, oh, this medicine works because the person has been cured by it. Okay, so I can say it has worked. This vaccine works. But do we have any similarity with what the astrologers do? What the results we have? There are several types of results, I suppose. Are they going to improve things? Improve things. Are they useful in some way to people? And in what way are they useful to them? And is being useful means that it works. The reason why it's difficult for me to say it works because there is the astrologer between the client and astrology. And the astrologer brings a lot to astrology and to the client. So, since most astrologers confess that they just translate what they look, what they find, what they see in the chart in normal, vulgar language, the client cannot distinguish what it works. He cannot follow the arguments of the astrologer because he doesn't know about astrology enough. So he can only say that the combination of the astrologer and his astrology is interesting for him. Is of some interest. But he doesn't know what is to be given to what depends on the astrologers and what depends on astrology. Is he able to do that? only if you give to a person an instrument, and if this person uses it, can you say that it works. If someone sells you something and uses it by himself, you don't know that something works, or is it just because the man who sells the thing is able to do something about it? You never know. You cannot trust someone who says that this machine works when he is the only person who knows how to use it. If you know how complex the historical system is, and as a matter of fact, what is funny is that there are many astrologers, for instance, who will use many aspects, many elements of the chart, many elements of the sky to explain something about a person or about a situation. But at the same time, they will say, oh, this factor that I use works. No, the single factor doesn't work because it is combined with a lot of other factors. And it's totally impossible to extract one factor from the whole process of planets and signs and houses and rulerships, etc., and transits. It's impossible. So when astrologer tells you that it works, when you ask a question about, I don't know, about Pluto, for instance, which is quite a good question. So do you think, Mr. Astrologer, that Pluto works, although it's not anymore considered as a planet, but it's sort of a dwarf planet, something very special? What if the astrologer answers, oh, but it works. It works very well. Can you prove that Pluto, among 10 other planets, among so many elements, so many factors, how is he able to decide if Pluto works or not? So, he plays with the words. Is astrology which works, or is it Pluto, specifically Pluto, which works? Yeah? Or is it the astrologer who works? Or is it the client who works? And who finally will do the connection between what he is hearing and what he believes that he can find about himself, which could fit. But as we said before, the client doesn't go to the astrologer to check if astrology works or not. He goes to the astrologer, he consults an astrologer because he wants to know about himself. He wants to learn about himself, and he wants to see himself differently. Not the way people look at him, not the way people have, what, according to the image people have given to him, have projected on him. He doesn't want to be confirmed in what people tell him he is. No, it's not what he's expecting. He's expecting something totally new, which would prove that what people have said about him and what he thinks about him, because they told him he was like that, is false. He wants the astrologer to say differently from what he believes about himself and about what he heard, which is the same, about himself from others. So he has to trust astrology, he has to trust the astrologer, and he has to take what astrology says about him, or is supposed to say about him, as granted, as true, as acceptable, as viable, as relevant. That's what he expects. So How can you say about such a relationship that something works? Yes, it works. Why it works? It works because the client accepts to believe that he is like that. Yes, he accepts to see at himself, to look at himself, to look at his life, the way he is said to do it. How can you call that to work? It works as a sort of expression that you can adopt. You know, for instance, you go to the hotel, the people give you a room. This room is acceptable. It works. Okay. You buy clothes. You can wear the clothes. It works. Astrology can be a cloth. I give you a cloth, and you put it. It works. The tailor can say that yes, he's made a nice suit, and it works because you can put it and it corresponds to you. You can use it. So I wanted to consider the different stages of the astrological activities, from astrology itself to the client, and also the sky, and also the astrologer himself, and all this is intricated. What people know about themselves, what they don't want to hear about themselves, what they want to hear differently, etc., etc. What I can say is, it is necessary to banish, definitely, this word works from astrology, because it's unacceptable only if you refer to astrology as a sort of suit of dress that one gives you and you can put it on yourself. You know, astrology has something to do with couture, with dressing, with cuisine. For instance, yes, I like examples connected with cooking. I prepare a meal, I prepare a dish, I give this meal to a person, the person eats it, is not specialistic about it, is not becoming ill, it works. You know, simple. It is eatable. Like we can say also something is audible or visible. You know? It's a very minimal conception of our relationship to the world. Yes. Yes, you can do that also. It also works. So, the expression is interesting because works can refer to a machine, to an instrument, to a radio, to a TV set, to anything, to a barbecue, whatever. And I doubt that I don't know, will a psychologist or will a psychoanalyst say, oh, it works? What does work in any case? It's a whole thing. The practitioner, the client, the patient, the knowledge, the theory, all this is connected. There is a transfer, counter-transfer, etc. And not just because you introduce a new element within the old soup, that because people drink the soup, eat the soup, this element as being part of the soup has been legitimated or has been proved.